Good afternoon, everyone. This is Irene from from Greece. Um, I made a faux postcard a few days ago, and everybody was asking, how did you do it? And it was the first time, and I found some time today, some space in between the craziness of preparing for the Greek Easter holiday. Um, and we are going to try to work together and try and make this. It's a very, very straightforward procedure. I haven't done much to it in a sense because this is a printout, and it was a free download from Pinterest. This again was a free download from Pinterest. This is a napkin along with this piece, and I have placed book page underneath, a lot of stamping and a little bit of golden embossing here. So the things that we are going to use today is cardstock. I have two types of cardstock. I have heavy cardstock and a tiny bit lighter cardstock. Now in Greece, I don't know in pounds, but in Greece we have the 160 gram cardstock and the 210 gram cardstock, and they're all different. Obviously the sturdier one is the 210 gram cardstock, which is this one here, and it has a slight ivory beige. I'm not really sure if I'm actually saying it right. I think it's an ivory color. Yes, that's the one. Now, we use stamps to give that antique look. And obviously this is a stamp that I happened to have. I bought it so long ago, and unfortunately there was this time where I just threw all the packaging away, and I regretted that because now I don't know what collection they belong to. But I'll try and make an effort to see if I can find it. So there's stamping here, and there's stamping here, and a tiny bit of stamping here. Now, the distressing around the card is made with Vintage Photo, and it's the Distressing by Tim Holtz. This is my distress inking tool, which is just a paper clip along with a cheap foam brush, the ones that we use for makeup. I've also used the embossing powder, the gold embossing powder. You can use anything you want, really. I mean, it doesn't have to be these particular colors. You can tweak along and try and use the supplies that you have in your own craft room. Versamark for the embossing. Now, the stamp that I used, I have no idea where I got this from. I remember I got it from eBay, and this is just a script stamp. I also have, give me a second, let me just find out whether I can find them, because I'm not all that organized. I have downloaded these digital stamps from the Graphics Fairy. So if you go back to the Graphics Fairy, you will find them and you will see them. We're going to use a couple today. All right, so there we go. And this I made to hold in my handmade ephemera. I'll show you later on. There's so many tutorials on how to do that online. And this is just sewing all around and making it into an album. But anyway, that's a project for another time. What more? Yes. So this is the corner chomper that I used for rounding the corners. Now, the measurements. This measures 6 inches long, 4 inches high. Okay, I got an A4 page of paper and I just cut it down to size. What more? Let me see. Now, yes, here we go. These are the stamps that I used by, there we go, Crafty Individuals. I believe, I'm not really sure, this is a British company, but you can look up and see and Google it and see whether this is their own British company or not. So anyway, and I'm not sure if you could see it. I've actually made a few stamping here. I've stamped it, so this is the one that we could use today. Okay. Now glue. What did we use for glue? Right, so glue sticks, they're quite inexpensive. You can find them everywhere. As I live in Greece, we have different types of glue sticks. I have used both this one, which is a tiny bit more expensive than this one. This one I got off the internet, and I got two for very cheap. So any one would do. I think this is sturdier from what I understand, but sometimes I just need to lay things down before I sew them in my sewing machine, so I use the cheap stuff. Whereas if I want just to put it down and just forget about it, then I use the more expensive stuff. You could use Mod Podge or decoupage glue, or there's glue that is slightly thicker, and you would run it down, which is vinyl glue, and run it down a little bit with water, just dilute it with water. For this project I used my handy dandy Mod Podge, and I trust it very much. It does say it's matte, but there's a big but. I would like it to be even more matte, if I could say, than it is, because sometimes it depends on the paper, you get this shine on it, and that is not always what you want, because if you want this to look vintage, you try to avoid the shininess as much as possible, if that makes any sense. Now, I'm not an expert, you'll have to excuse me, this is my very first tutorial on doing something like this. This, believe it or not, was my very first ephemera card that I ever made. So if we don't do it as good as this, it means that it was just a first time as good luck. So anyway, so what I normally do is I go all around the edges, and you won't believe where the camera is. It's actually standing on a box of glue. And I am terrible at this because I don't have an actual stand for my phone. So I might be out of frame a little bit. You will have to excuse me. We'll try and do this together and try and see how well we do. If not, that's okay. At least you've got the gist and you can perfect it, because on camera it can get slightly difficult. Now, I like to work sporadically with my distress ink, meaning I don't really care if it comes out perfectly or not, because that's what vintage is all about. It's been weathered down, it's been handled by many different hands, and it looks distressed, and it looks old, and it looks tired, but it's got that charm. So we don't really care if it looks nice and neat and tidy. So I could play with my ink a lot more, but as we don't have a lot of time on the video, I'm not going to fuss about too much with it. So anyway, and plus that, on top of that, my husband will come back from work, and obviously I won't have so much time. So there we go. So yes, this is what we do. We have to distress it to make it look vintage, antique, like this one. And we go all around. And honestly, if I can do this, you can do it so many more times. You can do it so much better than I can. I mean, I am not a patient person, and I'm not really good at this stuff, but anyway, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Nobody taught me how to do it. I was just watching videos and I just liked what I saw and started experimenting, and this is how it all came about. Anyway, so yes, this is the base. Okay, now the second thing we have to do is decide where we want the back of the postcard to be and the writing space. So let's just say, okay, let's just say that this is where the postage will go. Now, I have created postage with a background which was an old packaging. Let me show you, give me a second. So what I did was I took this, I stuck it on here and cut it all around, and I've created stamps like that. If I can find them. Okay, so I don't know what happened, but my battery died on me, and I was about to show you that this is what I created. I printed out faux stamps and pictures, small pictures, images basically, and I stuck them on this brown paper type packaging and cut it all around with decorative scissors. Now, as this is far too big for our project, I've gone ahead and I took this stamp from the Graphics Fairy, inked it all around with my tool here, and stuck it down. So that part, unfortunately, my video didn't record. So there you go. Let me just fix the lighting. Okay, so that's the first thing we do. Second thing we do is we use our stamp, the one that has the postage and all the details on top, and we are going to place it right about here, like that. So let's just ink it all up. I am using the Memento ink. You may use whatever ink you have lying about. It doesn't have to be this ink. I'm just telling you what I have, but you can work around it. It doesn't always have to be the same materials that other people use. Okay, now I'll have to get up and try to stamp it as good as possible. There we go. So this is it. All we have to do now is put the rest of the stamping around the stamp. Now I'm going to try and do that at the very end because I want to finish with this side. And this is where you go crazy and you go wild. Now what I did here was adding all sorts of things on there. This was paper, this was napkin, I did more stamping, and this is where the collage comes in handy. Let's see what we have. I printed this out. Oops, focus little camera. Okay, so I printed this out. I'm going to cut some of this out. Let's see. And we are going to play around with whatever it is we have. It doesn't have to be something in particular. It just happened that I had these on hand. What I'm trying to say is use up pieces of scraps. My previous scraps, I finished them, so I didn't have much more and I had to print that out again. but you know exactly what I'm trying to say here. Now, let's see. Okay, I'm going to glue this down, and we are going to move like that. Now, it's my fault, I forgot to, this is the new Mod Podge I have lying about, and I totally forgot to open it up before the video started. How typical. Fancy this. It's not as easy. Okay. Rightio, okay. You can do whatever you want. If you're an artist and a good, for example, painter, because what we are doing is art, but not everybody's a painter. I'm definitely not good with drawing and painting. That is something that I never did. But anyway, if you are good at that, you could use your watercolors, you can sketch on it, and then you could glaze it and make it look all antique. There's so much that you can do. As I'm not really that good at doing my own sketches or drawing, I prefer doing collaging, and it's something that, you know, helps us keep our stash in control, especially if you like keeping bits and bits from old books and things like that. So that is that. Off we go to the next level. That's layer number 1. Now, what do we have? We have napkins. Okay. So, napkins you may find in different places. I try to use napkins that I find in the Greek supermarkets or the local shops, because buying them online is not really all that great. I mean, it does cost quite a bit to have them sent, so I prefer doing things locally mainly. So let's just try this one out. Now, what I've discovered is, if we want to cut a design out, what we can do is use a little bit of water and just go around the image that we want to keep. So I have this water brush, just a cheap water brush, and I am just going to go around the design. Before you go around, you need to make sure this is a 3-ply napkin, so what you have to do is make sure you take and you separate the napkin from the layers, so the top layer stays clear. There we go. And the reason I picked this up is because it really does look antique, and it really looks nice and old. So let's just grab our little water brush, and my camera is in a very weird angle, and there we go. Now, if you do have patience, and if something is happening in your household and you want to, for example, go and do something else, you can leave it at this point here, let it dry completely, and then come back to it and continue on with it. But I am going to speed the procedure up by using my heat gun. In the previous card, I let it overnight. I tend to do these things if there's glue in a project. I let them just sit overnight and then continue the following day, but as this is a tutorial, I'd rather do it and finish it all at once. So there we go. Very straightforward, and it's going to show up even better once we do the final stamping and once we do the embossing as well, because the embossing adds that texture that we need to make it look more complete. But that's my opinion. I mean, you can actually stop here if you want to. Okay, let's see. So there we go. We did the embossing up here. I embossed with the classic gold by EnglishStamps.com, and this is the final product. Now on the back we have to finish up the stamping here. What I am going to use is this stamp that I found in a shop here in Greece by a company called Harvard, and we are just going to place it right here. But as there is another stamp here that I don't want to use, I'm just going to off-center it right on the piece of paper I have underneath. Let me just show you. And off we go. So this is it, ladies. This is my finished card. Slightly different than the previous one, but oops, what's happened here? But there we go. This is the final product. I hope you enjoyed it. My camera has been playing tricks on me, and unfortunately the battery wasn't helping much. I do hope you enjoy it. Questions, more than welcome. Please give me a thumbs up if you want, and just comment if there's something that you really want to know. They are totally different but pretty similar at the same time. You see, this one has that border, whereas this one doesn't. I tend to use a lot of free digital downloads, but these particular pieces of ephemera, I only use them for my own personal use. I'm not sponsored by any way by any of the companies I've mentioned. They're all my own products, but if there is something that you would like to know, please don't hesitate to ask. Be safe, enjoy. Regards from Greece. Bye bye now.